Hello, everybody. My name is Sneaky Snake, and today I'm going to be doing a list review of a list that I recently played against my good friend Hackney. Um, it was probably not the most competitive of games. We both got really unlucky on a variety of circumstances, but that being said, um, being unlucky is often the best way to learn the weaknesses of a list, and even the strengths as well. And I got to learn both of those things. Um, so the list or the mission we were playing was Capture and Protect. For those of you who don't know, Capture and Protect is a very, I would probably say like hard mission to do because you have to run to your opponent's DZ, pick up their HVT, and then run all the way back. Um, and that's kind of tough. And you also have to protect your own. Uh, well, it's not an HVT; they call it a beacon, but you have to protect your own beacon at the same time. And so, yeah, it's very similar, I guess, to Mind Wipe, but I would say a big difference is with Mind Wipe, you get there. So you first off, you can score a point by just pushing a button in the midfield, and then you also score points by simply defending your own uh, consoles or whatever. And then on top of that, whenever you get to your opponent's DZ, all you have to do is kill the server, the mind wipe server, and you score a point. And so it does make it a fair bit easier because you can just kill it, and then if your guy dies, it doesn't matter. But with capture and protect, you actually have to pick up the beacon and drag it back to your deployment zone. And yeah, that's kind of hard. So, to get into the list, I had originally built this based off of another list that I played in IGL. Um, you'll probably notice some very similar things like Santiago LT, Santiago Killer Hacker, a whole bunch of support pieces, the Curator with the marksman rifle or the arm turret, and then like two Trinitarians and um, Cyber Mind Raven Eye, all that stuff. Really the biggest difference here is I made some adjustments to the two or to the core I was taking and then the duo. So I added a Teutonic to the duo of Santiago's just to give them somebody who can like run in and dodge, who can break out with his impetuous order, and they're still keeping +1 SD because they're still pure duo. And on top of that, yeah, he can just kind of clear mines and overall just kind of a nice utility piece. And then on top of that, he also acts as a decoy for your Santiago LT. So something I really think that's very interesting about this list is you have the Santiago Lieutenant, and you're also missing a slot. So my opponent thought that I had an extra Trinitarian sniper because I was missing a slot, and I was also possibly missing 1.5 SWC. At the same time, your opponent might also think that this is the normal lieutenant, and then the Teutonic is your LT because you have 1.5 extra SWC, and yeah, because of that, this could be a normal one, and this could be your lieutenant. So it's a little bit of a shell game. It's a little interesting. Um, that being said, I do play against Hackney a lot, and he knows that I love the Santiago Lieutenant, so he knows that I always take it. But I think against another player who wasn't aware of my list building tendencies, they would probably not know which of the two was the lieutenant. Um, and on that same note, you might also be wondering, well, why don't you have Joan as your lieutenant? She's whip 15. She has number 2 now. Not that that really plays into lieutenant, but she also has inspiring leadership. Well, the reason I don't really think that Joan LT is always the move. I mean, it's definitely viable, but I think being able to use her as an active gunfighter and not having to worry about going into Lost Lieutenant is really valuable, especially when she gets frenzied. You can just break her out and start rampaging through people's lines, and yeah, it's nice not having to worry about not being yeah like basically just having to hide your LT all game. Not that you really do that with Joan, but it yeah, you're just a lot more susceptible to going into loss, like at least from what I found, if Joan is your lieutenant, just because she's a huge target. People are going to be trying to kill her all the time, so yeah. Um, and then so the two fire teams I have, I already mentioned this Santiago one, and then this one is just Joan, a hospitality doctor, and then a Santiago PhD. So three Santiagos. It's a lot. But they do things. They're really nice. I find them to just be really good toolbox units. And they can always kind of just run around and shoot people. The Hospitaller Doctor, I don't really like the Hospitallers. Like, well, sorry, no. I do like Hospitallers. I just think that they don't have a lot of variety. And I've really found that there's only like two profiles I really like to take, which is the Doctor and the HMG. But something I do really love about the Doctor is that it's not just a doctor. So it's a specialist who can actually gunfight really well because it has a multi-rifle. Um, BS-14 obviously is fantastic. He can defend himself in CC. He has stealth. He has good armor in BTS. Just everything. It's a really, really awesome piece that can just do a lot of things. Um, so yeah, I do really like the Hospitaller Doctor. Um, and then I kind of went over this already, but just a whole bunch of supporting pieces with the Fugazi Tech B. I have the Curator with the Marksman Rifle and a Palbot, just because I'm taking six um, heavy infantry and two of them are hackers. So there's definitely a lot of hacking susceptibility here. So having the engineer be able to have a Palbot to run after people and get states off of them is really nice. And then the two Trinitarians are there for defending. The nice part about having Joan with the AP Spitty, she can crack armor really well. And honestly, negative modifiers are not that bad against her because she's just BS-15 flat, and that can punch through so many things. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just high BS is a good counter to like mimetism and all that jazz. So yeah. Um, and then just a Raven-eyed Warcore. So how did the list fare in our match? Well, I did end up losing. My opponent did his classified, and I did not. I was not. I had the opportunity to perform my classified because it was. I was trying to heal something, like either through structure or Vita, and I ended up killing my Fugazi, and then I wasn't able to complete my classified, so for that reason I lost. But neither of us were able to get the beacon. So yeah. Something I think that's very interesting about Capture and Protect is in N4, I probably would have said that going second is the better of the two. Um, just because it's one of those missions that kind of favors going second more, just because like you can it's easier for you to kill your opponent after they've gotten uh your beacon, and then it's simultaneously easier for you to then run up and grab the beacon, and then you're not at risk of being killed after you've grabbed the beacon. That being said, I think in N5, honestly, going first might be better, and that has to do with how prolific deployables are these days. So I feel like people take mine layers a lot more. I feel like people are setting up like armed turrets. It's just a much more defensive edition overall. So yeah, for that reason, I think maybe going first is better, but I'd have to test that out more. Um, yeah, and then how did the list do as well? Like just overall, so Joan ended up dying. My Santiagos were unable to kill my opponent's Wave Riders because, yeah, Trinity is an interesting hacking program because it's actually really hard to kill people, especially if you're fighting through a repeater, and then especially if they have like BTS 6 and up, because you're hitting on like 15s and up, I think. No, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, yeah. So you have like a 25% chance to wound after if you even win the face to face. And It's yeah, it's tough. Um, I was barely able to kill one of his wave riders with my Santiago KHD, and that was only after I was able to run it into ZOC of him. So like in order to get him out of the repeater firewall, and yeah, it's tough. Um, so yeah, I mean they're still really good. Obviously, the Santiago's are really good, but it is a little bit of like a weakness almost, just not being able to punch through those very heavily armored hackers, especially if they're putting up a firewall too. Um, what else? Yeah, I mean, Joan dying was definitely a detriment to the list, but I will say something that was really nice was having both the Santiago Spitty and Joan meant that like even if one of them dies, the other one can still do stuff. They can still act as like a gunfighter. So that was really great. One of my Trinitarians popped out of hidden deployment and killed a Wave Rider, and then he ended up just instantly getting minced by a Prime, which is totally fine. He did his job. Um, and then my opponent ended up having to waste like a couple of orders to speedball his Wave Rider. Another reason why I hate speedball. But yeah, but it was still it was like a solid interaction. And then my other Trinitarian somehow managed to one-shot Jamie. I don't even know how that happened. It was crazy. Um, and so he also definitely did his job. But then after he was revealed, he ended up getting guided. Um, so yeah, both Trinitarians did really well. Um, I will say something to note about the Trinitarians is that killing stuff is not always their best use. Really, I mean, I know this, I was just kind of being cheeky, but really the best way to use them is to just screen out your opponent and force them to waste orders, taking bad fights. Because really, like, at the end of the day, okay, if I kill Jamie, but my opponent doesn't, like, waste any orders, fighting the Trinitarian, like, he's able to just kill it in 2 orders, I mean, yeah, it's like it's not that efficient. The power of the Trinitarians is forcing your opponent to take bad fights over and over again, and layering it also with your other reactions to try and create situations where your opponent not only loses stuff but also has a hard time removing the Trinitarian afterwards. And so, I mean, even though I used to play Hellouts a lot, even though I played with Trinitarian snipers all the time, I'm still learning a lot, like how to utilize them effectively, when to reveal them, when not to. So yeah, it's still a learning process, but they still did pretty well. Um, I would say the strengths of the list that came through whenever I was playing this mission was definitely the resilience. Like my opponent it took a while for him to kill Joan, and then it took a while for him to kill my Santiago, KHD, and then even then I still have my Night Hospitaller Doctor who's just like hanging out in the midfield, and is still definitely a very viable like gunfighter. Um, and it's the same thing with the other Harris team. Like he uh he had a really hard time cracking through the Knight of Santiago KHD, and also the just the LT Spitty. Um, it's just like overall a very like hanky, very cagey list, which I really like to play in ML. And so there's definitely like a lot of benefits there. I mean, I think the real question I end up asking myself is this list better than the other one I was taking with the Crux and the Pour of Three Teutonics? I don't know. Joan is really great, and she's pretty comparable to the Crux Knight. I think the big weakness she has compared to him is just her link ability, right? Like she can only join a Hospitaller link, whereas the Crux can just join any link he wants. And that flexibility really offers a lot. Not to mention that like, he is worse, well, worse quote unquote in CC. yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're around the same point. He's just one more point. Um, and they just do very different things. I don't really know if one is necessarily better than the other because each one has a lot to offer in terms of kit, and I don't think like you're gonna be sad if you take one over the other. Um, but those are just kind of some things to know of each of them. But yeah, I did really like this list. Um, it did get me thinking about how I would make like a Deferson list, so I'll probably be playing that one soon and doing a list review. But overall, I did really enjoy it. Um, I kind of wish I got to be able to use Joan more because I don't even think I ever really shot with her on active. Like she kind of was just on defense the entire time, which is fine. But yeah, overall, still very good list. Um, I had a good time with it, and if you guys want to try it out, I'll post it in the description and let me know how it goes for you. But that was it. I just wanted to do a quick list review, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.